For these problems, what we're looking to do is to solve the equation for a specific variable. We're trying to isolate that variable. So for number 22, it's asking us to isolate for y, which means that we are trying to get everything else on one side, but keep y all alone. So we need to chip away at it. So we're going to move things that are further away from y first. So the first thing we're going to move is this 4x. We want to move this 4x to the other side of the equation. So in order to do that, we are going to subtract 4x from both sides. We're undoing what's being done. 4x is being added to 2y. So how do we undo that? We subtract 4x from both sides. So they zero out here, and you're left with 2y here. And then you're left with 8 minus 4x. You cannot combine 8 minus 4x. 8 is a constant term. It has no variable. 4 is a variable term. It has an x. You cannot combine them, so you must leave them both side by side. 8 minus 4x has to stay. Now you're looking to get rid of the 2. 2 is being multiplied with y. So how do you undo multiplication? You divide. So you're going to divide both sides by 2. There are a few different ways to write this out. And next year when you take Algebra 1, you'll see this probably preferred way. However, for right now, we can leave this as 8 minus 4x over 2. So for this next problem, again, we're looking to isolate y. Y is right over here. So we're trying to get rid of everything else that's around y. But we need to do something first in order to get y out of that parentheses. We're going to have to distribute both that negative 3 and the 9. So let's distribute the negative 3 first. Negative 3 times 4 is negative 12. Negative 3 times y is negative 3y. And negative 3 times negative 6x is positive 18x. Okay, now we need to distribute the 9 to both. 9 times 2x is 18x. 9 times negative 2 is negative 18. Okay, now again we're trying to get this y all alone. So let's move everything else out. So how do you get rid of that negative 12? You're going to add 12 to both sides. So those cancel. You're left with negative 3y plus 18x equals 18x minus 6. Okay, now I need to move the 18x. You need to move that over there to the right. So in order to do that, you're going to subtract 18x from both sides. And in this particular problem, not every problem, in this particular problem, they cancel on both the left and the right. So you're left with negative 3y equals negative 6. The x's don't have to cancel out, but in this particular case they do. Then in order to get rid of the negative 3, you are going to divide by negative 3 in order to undo the multiplication. These cancel. Negative 6 divided by negative 3 is 2. Number 24 is a formula. This actually is the formula for a perimeter of a rectangle. 2 lengths plus 2 widths is the perimeter of a rectangle. And we want to solve this for w. That's what it asks us to do. It asks us to solve for w. So we need to chip away everything else. So the first thing we're going to want to do is we're going to want to move the 2l to the left side. So how do we do that? Well, 2l is being added to w, so we're going to subtract 2l from both sides. They cancel out on the right, but on the left, you cannot combine a p term with an l term. Different variables, they are unlike terms, you cannot combine them. So you're left with p minus 2l equals 2w. And you want to solve just for the single w, so you need to then move that 2, or remove the 2 from the right side. So you're going to divide each side by 2. They cancel there, so you can get w equals p minus 2l over 2. This next problem is for the area of a triangle. 1/2 base times height is the area of a triangle. And this is asking us to solve for b. Now the reason why you would want to do any of these, if you're trying to solve for the area, it assumes that you know both the base and the height. But what if you know the area and the height, and you're trying to solve for the base? That's when you want to rewrite the formula in terms of b, solving for b. So we need to get rid of all the stuff surrounding b. We can do this one at a time. How would you get rid of that w? Well, w is being multiplied by h. So you would divide both sides by the h. So you would have a over h equals 1/2 b. So now you're trying to get rid of the 1/2 out of 1/2 times b. Okay, so there's a couple of ways to think about this. How do you undo times 1/2? Well, you would divide by 1/2. But dividing by 1/2 is the same thing as multiplying by the reciprocal, which is multiplying by 2 over 1, which is the same thing as multiplying by 2. So you would multiply both sides by 2. So the 2 and the 1/2 would cancel. So you're left with a b on the right side. 2 times a over b you could write as 2a over h. I'm sorry, I missaid that. 2 times a over h. You can rewrite as 2a over h. So the 2 can go on the outside, but it's going to be nicer to write that 2 times as in part of the numerator, so 2a over h. 26 is the formula for the area of a trapezoid. In this particular one, we are trying to isolate B2, which is a little bit tougher because it's within a parentheses, but the steps aren't that bad. So let's first get rid of the 2. We want to move the 2 to the other side. Well, you're dividing by 2, so in order to undo that, you're going to multiply by each side by 2. 2's cancel, so you're left on the left side with 2a. On the right side, h times b1 plus b2. It's important to note that you cannot subtract both sides by b1. You can't do it because it's in parentheses. It's protected. You can't get into the parentheses until you get rid of what's being multiplied by the parentheses. So instead of doing that, we are going to move the h. We are going to divide both sides by h. The h's cancel, so you're left with on the left side 2a over h equals b1 plus b2. And now you can get at that b1 to move it. You're going to move it to the left side. In order to move something that's being added to b2, you're going to subtract b1 on both sides. They cancel here, so you're left with b2. Now you cannot do anything else to simplify 2a over h minus b1. They do not have a common denominator, so you cannot subtract them. Do not put b1 in the numerator. Can't do that either. This last formula converts degrees Fahrenheit to degrees Celsius. So if you wanted to rewrite for Fahrenheit, solve for Fahrenheit, the idea is that you would be converting from Celsius to Fahrenheit instead of the other way around. So the f is within a parenthesis, so is in minus 32, so you can't get at that first. So what you want to do is get rid of that times 5/9. Again, there's two ways to look at this. You can divide out by what you're multiplying. So you could divide out by 5/9. But that's the same thing as multiplying by 9/5. Remember, dividing by a fraction, same thing as multiplying by its reciprocal. Another way of looking at that is the way that you would undo times by a fraction is you would just multiply by the reciprocal. Times 9/5 on both sides. And think about it. This 9 cancels with that 9, makes it 1 over 1. This 5 with this 5, 1 over 1. So all the 1's cancel out. So you'll be left with 9/5 c equals f minus 32. And now you want to move that 32 over. So how do we move the 32 over? We're going to add 32. The reason why we add is because it's being subtracted from f. So we add 32. These cancel. So you can be left with f equals 9/5 c plus 32. You cannot combine those at all.